So why don't we all fly around in aeroplanes? Well, as a very amateur pilot myself, I can tell you that aeroplanes come with problems. It's not that they're noisy, which they are, or that they're difficult to fly, although they can be. It's the landing, and not for the reasons you might think. It's more a case of where you're allowed to land. That'll be the airfield, which is usually stuck in the middle of nowhere, miles from anything useful. Usually, at any rate.
Now here in Florida, the Americans came up with a completely new and novel answer to this eternal airfield in the middle of nowhere conundrum.
They have whole towns built not around the car, but around the aeroplane. And this was the world's first flying community, established in 1970.
The idea is very simple. You fly into your community, land your aeroplane, and then simply taxi up to your front door, or the office, or even the dentist. Here is a map of the place. Red bits are aeroplanes only, the grey bits are for cars and aeroplanes, but cars have to give way, and the black bit round the edge is where the poor people come in cars and have a look. It works though. There are 3,000 people living here and 650 registered aeroplanes on the site, and they're parked in garages next to houses. It's a hangar, but it's a garage. It's part of a house. And I have to say, the whole sensation of taxiing an aeroplane down a small suburban street is very strange. I keep expecting people to come out and start throwing stones at me.
There are more than 300 of these flying communities in the US alone. But there is an issue. Even small aeroplanes use up a huge amount of valuable space. So I can't really see London, Paris or Hong Kong going the same way. But we might be onto something. What about something that can fly and drive? What about a flying car?
It doesn't take a genius to appreciate the appeal of a flying car. It combines the A to B speediness of the aeroplane with the door-to-door convenience of the car.
And it wasn't that long after the invention of both that some bright spark decided that it might be a good idea to combine them.
And that man was Glenn Curtiss, American aviation pioneer. His new machine had a body, or a fuselage, of aluminum and wings, 3 sets of them made of wood and fabric. Here are the results. And he called this thing, very cleverly, the Curtiss autoplane.
Unfortunately, the autoplane never caught on, partly because it never actually flew. But the idea was good, so it stuck. There were many subsequent attempts to get a flying car up and running, most notably in the 40s and 50s. And perhaps the most successful and best known was this. The Taylor Aerocar.
This is the only one flying or driving in the world. Changing gear, double the clutch, we're in.
It's of 1956 vintage and one of only 5 Taylor Aerocars ever built. Incredibly, this noddy car is one of the most valuable I've ever driven, at around $1.5 million. For its time, it was incredibly innovative.
Because the rear wheels were used when the aeroplane landed, the car had to be front-wheel drive.
On the road, there are a few obvious shortcomings.
It's got a 3-speed crash gearbox. It's got appalling drum brakes and these wonky little wheels set out at the side. It's just useless. And the noise is colossal. After you, please. After everybody. The gear knob comes off in your hand every 5 minutes. Oh, God. Sorry. If it's this bad as an aeroplane, then we're in serious trouble.
And the conversion from car to plane does little to dismiss my concerns.
That's all that's holding it on. It's a sort of springy pin. Latched.
Quite a long time later, with the wings and tail in place, it's time to put my life in the hands of my chauffeur-stroke-pilot, Sean Sweeney.
Aerocar $02 cleared for takeoff with flight.
That's the first time I've ever been in a car and someone has said clear for takeoff. This is very confusing. This feels like a light aircraft, but with a couple of exceptions. That's obviously a steering wheel. 30 miles an hour, down the freeway, 40, 45, 50 miles an hour. Still feels like a car. We're flying.
At last, I'm in a car that really does fly.
I've been fantasising about this moment since I was about 6 years old, so that's absolutely fabulous.
Thankfully, as an aeroplane, the Aerocar makes a lot more sense.
I think I'm right in saying, I know that this is the first time this car aeroplane has flown for nearly 3 years.
Yes.
And I am probably the first passenger for, what, 20 years?
Yeah, for about 20 years, you sure are.
Well, I like it.
It's a mechanical marvel. The car engine now powers the propeller. And the more I flew, the more I was willing to forgive its crimes in a previous life, as a car.
Other people who have sat here, where I am today, in this very flying car, include Marilyn Monroe, Lana Turner and Ava Gardner. They're not all at the same time, presumably.
So this finally settles an age-old pub debate amongst sports car enthusiasts. The man whose car can fly gets the girl. And should you want one, there is one currently for sale on the internet. But they are asking $3.5 million, and it isn't even airworthy.
Why don't you go ahead and fly the airplane? You go ahead and put your feet right up on the rudder pedals, and you got the control stick right there.
Right. I am actually flying the Aerocar. How about that? Hold your hands up in the air so they know I'm doing it. There you go. We're cruising along here at an airspeed of about 80-85 miles an hour, which doesn't sound particularly good. Still, you remember, of course, that we're going in a straight line, and we don't have to stop.
Yeah, a trip that normally takes about 2 hours to the coast to go enjoy the beach, we could do it less than 20 minutes.
2 hours in a car, 20 minutes by flying car. So we are now overhead the airfield. We're going to land, fold the wings, drive off to the drive-in movie for a hamburger.
$2 rudder cleared to land.
All right, clear to land, 102 Delta.
I found the next.
414, limit our connection 414 at Cook.
It's a car.
We're 122,
There we go.
your right turn heading 300.
Well, there we are.
Thank you very, very much indeed, Captain. That's most excellent.
No better way to travel.
Do you know, I think you might be right.
There were barriers to the success of the Aerocar. And it's not just that the car is a bit shonky. It's far more mundane than that.
Before you could fly or drive the Aerocar, your paperwork had to be in order. You needed a driver's license, you also needed a pilot's license. You needed to register it as a car, you needed to register it as an aeroplane. You needed a radio operator's license for the aeroplane, you needed a medical certificate to be a pilot. And because it was over 17 feet long when the wings were being towed, in America you needed a chauffeur's license. And a chauffeur's license required another different medical. So all in all, you needed 8 licenses and certificates to be able to own an Aerocar.
And, of course, you still needed an airstrip, so you were likely to spend far more time driving than flying.